Okay, so it's about 1 or 2 weeks before the ePro League starts, and suddenly a bunch of Belgian FIFA players start sending tweets, with Shadow being one of them. Shadow, one of our Red Devils, former ePro League winner, and he was saying that the entire Belgian community is filled with a bunch of clowns. Now, let's see what caused all of this and give you a bit of context behind this. And in this video, I will also give you my point of view on the topic as well. But first, please make sure you're subscribed to the channel. It's my first real video here, so it would mean a lot to me if you showed some support, and let me know how I can improve these videos. Okay, enjoy the video. Alright, just to give some background information, each Belgian football club that plays in the first division in Belgium is obliged to pick 1 or 2 players to represent them in the ePro League, which is the equivalent of the Pro League, but then for FIFA. And the thing that kickstarted it all for me was a tweet that I saw by eLitramo, or Ramo, and he saw that some clubs were announcing their esports players, or their players to represent them in the ePro League. The ePro League is often called the Belgian Championship, so it's kind of a big deal. But eLitramo himself is a free agent. He's a very good Belgian FIFA player, and as there are very many, but as there are also very many free agents. So that means he's not signed to a club, he's not signed to an esports organization, so he's also not taking part in the ePro League. And he saw that there's some people being announced by clubs that he feels, or that he's sure that we all know, don't have the level that he has, or that other free agents have, but they don't get signed to a club, while people who do have a lower level do get signed to a club. And this, of course, leads to a lot of frustration, and of course they feel disappointed and hurt. And it's this disappointment that leads to tweets like this. Summarized, the tweet says that clubs should only select the very best players of Belgium and not the players who aren't even verified. He says that because the way Belgian clubs do their selection of their esports players, which isn't based on performances, is wasting the bigger talents of young players. This tweet was heavily backed by many great Belgian FIFA players, with not only free agents but also pros who are signed to a club or have been signed to a club. Some examples are Matax, former winner of ePro League, but also Zairer, who still is the esports player for STVV, and he said that the Belgian esports scene can never grow if it continues to happen like this. The original tweet of Ramo I find very, very interesting, and I will also put a link to the tweet in the description of the video in case you also want to see some of the other replies. It was a very good tweet to see some other opinions, and many people respectfully debated and shared their opinions. So it's definitely something interesting to watch. But to summarize it, basically everyone agrees that there's a bit of a lack of credibility for the ePro League to serve as a Belgian championship, because biggest players in the Belgian FIFA scene, who are Stefano Pina and Gilles Bernard over the past few years, are not even participating in it. Now, almost at the same time, I think it's in the same time span, that Club Brugge also announced their esports player, Contin, who was going to represent them in the ePro League, and it caused a bit more heavy debate that was a bit less respectfully, I should say. Sébastien said that choices like this by Club Brugge are the reason that esports in Belgium can never grow. And this time, of course, many people still agreed, but there was a bit more arguments coming from the other side. But again, the main argument remained that as long as the ePro League is this small and doesn't have this big audience, it's not worth for the club to really invest that much in. Okay, now this is where the conversation started to get a little bit more heated between the two familiar faces in our esports scene that are Nikom and Aurelino. Nikom being an esports player last year for Zulte Waregem, this year for Gent, and Aurelino being an esports player for Standard Liège, I think 2 years ago. Now he's currently a free agent, but still very involved in the scene. Aurelino is on the side that is basically attacking the club and saying that football clubs should invest very heavily on esports, and that they should pay the esports players properly, and only if they do that, they can really have a good effect on the esports scene and make the FIFA esports scene go somewhere. Otherwise, it won't go anywhere. Now, on the other hand, there's Nikom, and Nikom is basically defending the clubs. Now, his first argument is the thing that everyone says, basically, is that there's no audience, so there's no reason to invest in it. So that's the main topic. But then he also brings up the business side from it for the football club, saying that if they only focus on performance, they don't get anything from it. He says that the image and the brand behind the representative of the club is even more important, and that's the only thing that can then football clubs can really gain from it if they pick the representative based on the image and the brand that is mixed with performances. Now this is where ArrneM decided to get a bit more personal and again attack Nicom by saying, oh, so you got your transfer from Zoltwaardigem to Gent because of your image and your brand? Is that what you're saying? And he's saying, oh, come on, don't be silly. That's not true. You only have 1,000 followers. It's not because you have 1,000 followers that all of a sudden you have a brand or you have a nice image. And he basically, aimed that directly at Nicom. Now, Nicom defended himself, saying he's also doing content creation and he's doing a lot more other things for the clubs that basically people are not seeing yet, at least. And then again, ArrneM replied, oh, are you also a barman? Kind of mocking him, making fun of it. And so the conversation goes on a little bit, but let's not go too much into that. So all I want to say is that it got a little bit more heated in that conversation. And it was interesting to see, at least. Now, I know I wasn't the only one that found this entire topic or debate very interesting. I saw many people talking about it, tweeting about themselves, participating in the tweets, talking about it a bit more privately. One of those people who also saw this conversation was Shadow. He basically saw all of this and probably thought to himself, what a bunch of clowns are this? So he decided to tweet that the entire Belgian community is filled with a bunch of clowns, probably aiming at a few people, certain people. But after a while, he decided that this was probably not the best positive message to spread, so he deleted the tweet. Now, let's go a bit away from the drama, and I'll explain a bit how I see this topic and what my point of view is on it. Okay, so first a quick disclaimer. I know I'm very lucky to have represented KV Kortrijk in the ePro League because I am definitely one of those players that is less skilled than, for example, Elite Ramo, who didn't get to play in the ePro League, but I did because I was lucky to be chosen by KV Kortrijk. Now, something else I need to mention is that I do have a background in business and I'm also doing esports management. So the entire business side is something that interests me very well, and it may be the reason why I'm attracted to one side of the conversation a bit more. But in my opinion, the biggest thing that people are forgetting is that we still have to remember that in the end, in the ePro League at least, we're representing football clubs, and the people at football clubs are too busy running an actual football clubs. Most clubs don't have time or money, or they just don't care for an esports department or an esports player or the esports story, whatever we want to call it. Most of them don't care. So even the ones that do care are maybe not able to run it properly without ruining their brand or wasting their resources. So in those cases, it really does not make sense to do it. The harsh reality is, in my opinion, that if the ePro League would not oblige the clubs to pick an esports player or a player to represent them in the ePro League, maybe at most 5 clubs would have an esports player. And that would say enough already, I think. But it makes sense for some clubs with esports, like KRC Genk, and how they are doing it. It seems very, very good, and I think it can be very successful. Same goes for Anderlecht and how they pick their story with Zakaria. I think it fits perfectly in the brand, fits with the performances, and he's perfectly accepted in the community as well. So it's an amazing fit there. But for the big clubs, I can understand. But for smaller clubs, I understand that they don't have the resources for it, or they don't care enough for them to make it a viable thing to actually go into or invest in. So I think these smaller clubs, they need to prove that their resources they will put in it to invest in esports is that they need a long-term action plan. They need to prove that there's a return on their investment, and they probably can't do that. So as long as that is not there, why would they do it? I think in the current climate, these clubs that don't have the information, the knowledge, they don't do it, and I truly understand why. So in my opinion, if you're really a pro player, please try to look more at esports organizations instead of football clubs for your next path to become an actual real pro player, because I think those esports organizations have a lot more knowledge about esports, can guide you better in the right path, give you more exposure from actual FIFA fans instead of football fans who are not necessarily interested in FIFA. And with those clubs or with those organizations, you can also participate in big tournaments. Maybe not the ePro League, but also in the eClub World Cup, for example. It's a big tournament, and there's Belgium esports organizations that are participating in it without being a football club. So that's at least something I would do if I were really ambitious as a pro player. Alright, I think I have 3 points that I can put as a conclusion. So to conclude, number 1 is that yes, the level of our Belgian FIFA scene is being held back by the way the ePro League is set up, and many young players don't get the chance to show their talent, I should say. So yes, that's one thing, that's for sure. Then second of all, I don't think clubs are to blame for this. This is my personal opinion, but I'm pretty convinced that clubs should not be the ones making the first step with this. Then third of all, I think maybe let's not call the ePro League the Belgian Championship. If we all agree that the best Belgian FIFA players may not be in the ePro League, why do we call it the Belgian Championship if they don't even get the chance to participate? I think maybe that's where the biggest step is. Anyway, I think to grow together with this FIFA community and make it all a bit more positive, we should all just support each other in our own projects, and we can start doing that right now by clicking the subscribe button on this channel. I'll be very grateful for that. And I'm already grateful for you watching this entire video. Be sure to let me know your opinion. Let me know how I can improve. And yeah, I guess I'll see you in the next one. Ciao.